Chapter 1 Daniel Boone. In this unit, you will learn that European Americans living in the original 13 states eventually did start to explore the area to the west of the 13 states. Do you notice the people in this image? This is Daniel Boone and the people on the Wilderness Road. These individuals were some of the first American settlers to explore the West. In the first chapter, you will hear about Daniel Boone, one of the people shown in this image. As a boy, Daniel Boone made friends with the Lenape, the Native Americans who lived in the forests. They taught him many skills, such as how to walk quietly on wooded paths, how to follow footprints made by animals, and how to hunt. When he grew up, Daniel Boone and his wife Rebecca lived in the forest in North Carolina. They had 10 children, and they lived together in a big, one-room log house. Over time, Daniel began to think about moving farther west. Why do you think it was important for Daniel Boone to learn to walk quietly on wooded paths through the forest? Walking quietly through the forest would help Daniel be able to hunt animals without scaring them away. Footprints are the shapes left by a person's or animal's foot or shoe. Footprints can tell which direction the person or animal went. Who did Daniel Boone make friends with when he was a young boy? What did he learn from these friends? Where did Daniel Boone live with his wife and family? Daniel, like other Americans, had heard about beautiful land in the western part of the United States. At the time, about 1 million Americans lived up and down the East Coast. He had heard about new places where they could farm and build towns. Now Daniel and others wanted to explore these places, but their path was blocked by the Appalachian Mountains. Have you ever seen or hiked in the mountains? Mountains can be very tough to travel over. Trails are helpful, but they can be steep, winding, or destroyed by rain and bad weather. Daniel Boone had a desire to head west, but there would be difficulties that the Appalachian Mountains would present to him. What did American settlers, including Daniel Boone, hope to do when they moved farther west? What blocked the path of people who wanted to explore other places? Daniel set off with friends to find a way through the Appalachian Mountains. The men came upon a Native American path that made it easier for them to make their way. Native Americans hunted in the Appalachian Mountains and in the forests on the land below. They called this area Kankakee, which means meadowland. Across the mountains, the men saw land for farming and large leafy forests. Meadowland is an area of flat land that is covered in tall grasses. Look at this picture of Daniel Boone and his friends. Can you describe what you see? Do you notice their long rifles, tall boots, and tan jackets? The clothes Daniel and his friends wore were made out of leather and fur from the animals they hunted. The land the Native Americans called Kankakee is now the state we call Kentucky. Do you hear the similarity between the Native American name and the state name? Many places in the United States have names that are similar to the names Native Americans used. How did Daniel Boone and his friends travel across the Appalachian Mountains? What did Daniel Boone find on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains? Daniel wondered how he could bring Rebecca, his children, and everything else he owned to this new land. There was no road through the Appalachian Mountains. It would be difficult for wagons to cross the mountains without a clear path. Daniel knew he needed a wide, flat road that would take them into Kentucky. Daniel and other men set to work to clear a way through. They cut down tall trees. They worked day and night. The path they cleared was called the Wilderness Road. The Wilderness Road ended at the Kentucky River, where Daniel Boone and the men built a fort. Daniel named it Fort Boonesborough. Wagons have 4 wheels and are used to carry heavy loads or people. They're pulled by horses or other strong animals. Some wagons during Daniel Boone's time were covered to keep the loads dry or out of the sun. Clear means free of the trees, bushes, and other plants that kept settlers from being able to travel across the land. To clear is to remove all the trees, bushes, and other plants from a piece of land. The eastern states had lots of trees, so the early settlers had to do a lot of clearing so that they could travel, as well as build homes and farms on the land. The wilderness is an unsettled area, or an area where people have not built homes, farms, or other buildings. Have any of you been somewhere you would call the wilderness? True wilderness areas are harder to find today because of all the people who live on Earth. A fort is a place that is built strong enough to provide protection. The Wilderness Road was the only road through the mountains to Kentucky. Thousands of people followed the Wilderness Road across the mountains. They traveled with wagons filled with almost everything they owned and their heads filled with dreams. They wanted to go west. Where did the Wilderness Road go? Why do you think the settlers traveled with almost everything they owned? What did Daniel Boone do that made it easier for more American settlers to move west?